As the black blood of Ungoliant poured forth onto the ground, it seeped ever so closely to the well. The liquid began to become more translucent and clear as it fell into the recesses of the well. The shadows dissipated, and Ungoliant faded into the shadow surrounding Littleheart. The sun crept over the Pelori Mountains, and the hills and surrounding trees were filled with light. Upon removing the cloak from Tessero, the two trees, the silver and gold, were rooted upon the hill of Littleheart, and the Silmarils were brought forth to return the borrowed light. Immediately a flooding of hue returned to the land. The water of the wells of Varda fed the trees, and the trees fed the land. The flowers of Yavanna bloomed once again to their full strength. Fëanor returned with Celebrimbor alongside from the halls of Mandos. While the group rested, the elves and the Valar remained in heated discourse about the fate of the Silmarils. And you guys should have all rested. So in this place, Yavanna and Ulmo and Lorien and Yavanna and Varda, the carriers of the sun and the moon, Tilion and Arien, Ingwe, the high king of the Vanyar, and Celebrimbor and Fëanor were all in heated discussion about the fate of the Silmarils, now that the Silmarils have been used to return the light to the trees, and the trees are once again feeding the land. All of the elves were released from the halls of Mandos, and Celebrimbor and Fëanor, the greatest of all the smiths of the elves, they're both Noldor elves, traveled the path of dreams from the halls of Mandos and came immediately to Ilmarin, and they remained in heated discussion. Fëanor, of course, looking like he would like his Silmarils back. Thank you very much. And Celebrimbor, who is Elendor's brother, who made the Rings of Power, he looks as though he's trying to convince Fëanor of something, but you're not sure what. And you guys, meanwhile, have been resting, and they, I guess, let's say, to keep in tradition of what we have been doing, the person that you've most recently, or the Valar that you've most recently rescued, comes to discuss with you. So Varda comes forward, and Varda would say, unfortunately, I have some bad news.
Great. Sounds like good news for me.
You're like, hey, I'm used to this.
Right.
So it appears that the forces of Morgoth may be trying to essentially hijack the Ainulindale, the music of the Ainur. They have kidnapped some very important people. So if we look on the octagram of Ilmarin, you have 3 trials left. You were going to undertake the trial of Tulkas, and you remember Tulkas was one of the people mentioned in the prophecy that supposedly was going to fight Morgoth, right? Eonwe, Turin Turambar, Tulkas, those were the 3 mentioned in the prophecy. Elendor is the avatar of Eonwe. The spirit of Turin is inside of Faradir. Tulkas is the last remaining Valar who remains kind of in limbo, kind of lifeless, sitting on his throne. And so you were going to go into Angband, over to Thangorodrim, well, Elendor got some inside scoop from Celebrimbor right before the end of the last session, but basically, Turin Turambar visited there. You thought originally to awaken Calagon the dragon, which you've already fought, but apparently
Right.
Turin and the Shadow have done something else while they were there, and now Varda is telling you that one of your other trials, the trial of Orome was the woodsman and the great hunter, and he was probably the Valar that spent the most time in the land of what was then the land of the elves. So the elves had awakened way to the east, past even Middle Earth, in a place called Cuivianen. And the very first elf, Imin, and he's the father of the first tribe of elves, and he has remained there, even though Cuivianen is not the beautiful Eden that it used to be. It's now sort of desertous, and the great sea that the elves were born next to has sort of dwindled and become not very impressive. Most of the elves didn't know that Imin was still alive, but he was alive, and he was the keeper of some of the knowledge of the music of the Ainur. And alongside of him, some of you have met Alatar the Blue, who set your whole quest into motion, or was one of the ones that set your quest into motion. So he was the one who informed the king under the mountain that they should send a dwarf to this fellowship. So Burin is actually here because Alatar the Blue was at the last meeting of the White Council with Saruman and Gandalf and Galadriel, and on his way back to the east, to the sort of desertous region, he stopped by the Dwarven Hall and said, "You should send a dwarf on this mission." So Alatar the Blue, Imin, they both have been kidnapped, and you're going to be sad to hear that Littleheart, Ilfrin, has also been kidnapped. The one that was looking for his mallet. So it appears they're trying to figure out the beginning notes or something of the music. Because remember, in the prophecy, there was going to be another song. The song is what the original Ainulindale is, what sung the universe into existence. And at the end of days, there will be another song where the children of Iluvatar, the elves and the men, will sing with the Valar, and will sing basically and recreate Arda. And so Morgoth has made a preemptive move on this and has kidnapped some of these key people. So and they have received reports that they have taken him back to Angband. So where you thought you would be doing one trial, this trial will basically check 2 trials off, both the trial of Orome and the trial of Tolkis.
That's not bad news.
And they would tell you also that if you are planning to go into Angband, that you must be careful, that in terms of evil and power, that there is no place left on Arda that is as evil as Angband and Thangorodrim. That the evil of the place has survived the exile of Morgoth for thousands of years, and that they're not even sure you can find a way in. But that once you're there, may change your very being just crossing across the threshold of Thangorodrim.
That's pretty bad news.
Are you guys following all this so far?
Yeah. So, anyone in particular more susceptible to this change of being?
They say you will all be tested in some way.
Ow.
And the other thing that they would add is that that it appears that. So let's actually look at the lore cards here, so some of you can learn more about this. So under lore, under handouts, lore, current session, there's a someone want to read Angband, and I'll need somebody to read Angband and Thangorodrim. Don't all you volunteer at once, please.
I'll do Thangorodrim. The stronghold of Morgoth during the first stage. The underground stronghold honed into 3 volcanoes in the Angband region. The stronghold was crushed under the weight of the massive dragon, and Calagon when he fell from the sky dead.
So you learned that it wasn't just the fact that he fell on them. Remember what happened to Calagon when he died?
He exploded.
Yeah, he exploded.
It happened in my face. My shadow.
Yep. All right,
Yeah.
MJ, go ahead.
For what?
I thought you volunteered to read Angband.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It was far to the north where the elves and men lived in.
Balerion.
Balerion, thank you. The part of the world that was flooded after the war with Morgoth. It was a volcanic region where Morgoth's stronghold, Thangorodrim, was located.
Ooh.
Yeah, and the other thing they would tell you is that the lieutenants, some of the strongest Balrogs, were his lieutenants, and that's where they called home. And so they've seen the armies of Morgoth begin to march from Angband, but they haven't seen some of his strongest lieutenants. So they would mention the strongest of all the Balrogs, Gothmog. And they have not seen him come forth from Thangorodrim.
So he's probably still there?
That's what they're thinking.
That's not good either.
All right, so
You weren't joking when you said that this is some bad news, huh?
yeah, this is and you guys would not be thrilled. Burn especially would not be thrilled about facing another Balrog, because you faced the Shadow who turned into a kind of Balrog, but he wasn't a true Balrog. So the idea that you're going to have to face a true Balrog is a little unnerving, especially to the dwarf.
Yeah, is this party? I mean, obviously not the first one, but have we ever faced a? I was thinking the first one, but have we ever faced a Balrog?
Not a true Balrog. Like I said, Gwathauer had turned into what he. So Gwathauer, the Shadow, the one that possessed Turin, looked inside of the group's biggest fears, and he chose Burin. And Burin's biggest fear, of course, being what he thought was the son of a Moria king, was obviously the Balrog that lived in Moria. So so Gwathauer turned into a Balrog, even though he wasn't a true Balrog, and possessed Burin. That's why he scares the piss out of Burin so much.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's the thing that Gandalf fights.
Yes. Yes. Run, you fools! This thing is beyond any of you.
Run, you fools!
It's fly, you fools, man.
It is fly, you fools. Yeah. It is.
Okay, we're gonna do that.
Fake fans exposed.
All right, and so we're going to say Morloman, having been paralyzed and poisoned, we're going to say that he actually needs to stay behind and recoup. So it will be just the 5 of you. And the portal appears, and Varda wishes you luck.
Thanks, Arda.
All right, I'm going to bring you to a region called the Gates of Angband. You would know basically that you have to kind of head, let's see, you'd have to head east, so right on the map, in order to, you're basically traveling in this region. It was a volcanic region, and it's one of the highest points. This mountain range actually is one of the highest points in the world, so it was not flooded. But there weren't a lot of people clamoring to go to the Angband region, even in the second and third ages.
Probably wasn't.
All right, so you guys are here, and you have to head east. You're traveling through this valley, and you're trying to find sort of the main entrance of Thangorodrim, what's called the Great Gate.
In order for us to head east, is like their compass or that sort of thing, or do we just walk?
I just travel right, I guess,
Right.
and then yeah.
Okay, I'll take the lead because I want to help.
All right.
I'll walk up to here.
All right, you guys seem to be going through the land unnoticed, although you look down and you see pit marks from what looks to be like an army that has traveled this way. Hey, actually, Tessero, do you want to, I should say Max, do you want to describe anything that people would notice after you wake up from your rest now that the barkskin cloak has been removed from your body?
Well, Tessera is definitely a lot less nature-y. I guess Tessera would say, like, kind of to you guys that he feels different, a bit less connected to nature, but a little bit
More flexible.
more connected to
Humanity.
he still feels he still feels like he has some power inside of him, some power that not a normal hobbit would have. He's not entirely sure about it yet, but he's figuring it out.
He has a spring in his step that you haven't seen before, and this is new for Tessero. It's like Tessero on steroids from back in the first part of the campaign.
Right?
Well, they did give the seed.
It has to do with the fact that we ripped the cloak off, which was basically the source of his kind of druidic powers, and also he drank this. What was the thing you called again?
The cordial of the gods, Miravore. No mortal has ever drank the cordial of the gods.
Yeah.
Except for Tessera.
He feels different, and he feels great. He's feeling great.
Right.
We've also noticed, and maybe you guys have noticed too, Tessero has always been one to kind of hum and sing to himself, but now when he does it embraces his spiritual form.
So it's a weird thing to be doing in Angband, is to be humming and singing to yourself.
Yeah, he seems really happy to be here.
All right. Well, I'm going to progress this along. So you guys make it unscathed to the edge of the map, and you reach the Great Gate. And at the top of the hill, you see something that looks like... Let me see here. Well, it looks like the thing on the map. But...
Is there an albino Balrog?
Yeah, it looks like an alien.
Yeah, it looks like an albino Balrog.
Yeah, more bone devil.
Maybe Balrogs all look different.
But bone devils don't normally have wings. Bone devil Balrog.
he sees you, and he doesn't appear to be advancing on you, nor does he make any hostile motions toward you.
So it's like, hello!
He says, "Come
You
forward."
walk in and you hear a faint "What's up?"
He beckons you forward. He says, "Come forth."
I feel like he wouldn't cheese us like that, so we all agreed to do it.
Sure. Well, no, I don't know. Last time we did this, the cat lady screwed us over. Remember those friendly cats?
I can hear you perfectly fine over here.
He's just standing there.
Yell it to us.
Conversation at this distance.
He looks very very happy to just be standing there.
Who, Tessero?
Yeah, Tessero is just happy to be here.
That's what it's like. Hey, we made it.
I like that with the place. The lava really accentuates
Your paleness. Yeah.
That's great, barrel.
All right, so he's not advancing. He's not engaging you. He appears to be a sentry of sorts, put on duty to guard or if your characters had seen the Holy Grail, it reminds you of that guy at the bridge.
Oh, do you have a riddle for us? Doth thou hast the riddle?
No, he has no riddle, but he beckons you forward.
I say we just go forward. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Probably step into the trap. I ask him, how fast can he fly out of here? That's a good riddle.
He says, I've been put here for purpose, and I obey my master. I obey the Dark.
What is your master?
The Dark Lord is at hand.
So, does he have a full house? A couple aces, maybe?
Is the Dark Lord?
He says, I can barely hear you. Please come forward.
Oh, God.
No, why don't you come down here?
Yeah.
There's stairs
right.
just in front of you.
He says, strangers. He says, strangers to this land. I've been standing here for over a millennia. Standing here a few more moments won't it doesn't bother me. He's like, he says, I've been tasked with greeting guests to our land.
Wow. That's a greeter. I don't even want to know what else lives here.
What was your last reading like?
I love that you guys haven't moved a muscle.
I saw the picture.
Hero's gonna walk up to here, up these stairs here. Oh gosh.
Also, isn't Burn scared shitless of these things?
That's a weird confidence within him.
So Charlie can tell us how Burn feels. I mean, there's no Balrogs present. However, there is lava, which and knowing that this is kind of like, Balrog's home territory might make him a little nervous.
Yeah, I'm not feeling too hot about this. I'll sit back a bit, boys. But Tessera, I mean, hey, you look like you're doing fine for yourself.
Alright, I'll move forward. I got my ring of hope here anyways. Alright. Man, you are one ugly motherfucker.
He has a crazy, shit-eating grin on his face when you say that. And he says, as much as I would like to tear you limb from limb, instead I'm going to offer you entrance to my master's abode.
What is your price?
What's our exactly?
He says, I'll wait till everyone comes forth
I was going to bring
no.
to describe the terms. He says, I will not attack you unless I am attacked.
All right, quickly, let's attack him.
Can you do like the insight to see if
He says,
solid.
he says, however, if you attack me, you will not gain entrance to the stronghold.
Oh, that's sweet, your face.
He's bluffing.
Okay, I believe him 100%.
Okran's like, wait, where did we go? We went to Angband? What the hell?
Hey guys, I think he's asking us to come over here.
Yeah, Marco, you know that he's speaking the truth, that he's serving. You can tell that his obedience to Morgoth supersedes his desire to kill you.
Maybe we should taunt him, wave our asses at him. Come on, you want to kill it? You want to kill it? I don't want for real though.
He says, what is your purpose here? Do you wish to seek entrance to Thangorodrim?
Indeed.
isn't there like granting us entrance into?
He says, this land was once the home of 3 majestic volcanic mountains.
Alright, tell them to hold on 1 second. I need to play a tune while he talks about it. I take out my harp, I start playing. Go on, I'll go with you.
He says, stop that racket.
I stop, all insulted.
He says, as I say, look around, and you see that the top of this elevated surface that you're standing it still has like devastation. It's just like, it looks like a nuclear bomb went off. And you think possibly this is where Encalagon landed and exploded.
Take me away.
And so this used to, he says, this used to be the once great gate of Thangorodrim. It has been modified, but I assure you the inside of my master's hall is just as great as it once was. He says, if you wish to come inside, in this place your strengths become your weaknesses become amplified, and each portal requires one of you to succumb to the virtues of the Dark Lord. They are greed, gluttony, anger, vanity, and obedience.
Oh, there's the trials.
And you think, like, looking around, you're like, your eyes land on Tessero, and you're like, gluttony. You look at Burin, you're like, anger. You wonder if possibly the trials or the terms don't change depending on who's seeking entrance. But then that could be a figment of your imagination as well.
I don't know.
I think a lot of these could fit with probably a lot of you. He says, do you agree to?
What I got from that is just like everything's gonna be a weakness.